All right, let's talk about something we all know, maybe a little too well. Psychological stress. We all feel it, we all talk about it, but what on earth is it really?
And believe it or not, that simple question has been at the heart of a huge scientific debate for years. Is stress something that happens to you, like a traffic jam? Or is it something that happens inside you, that feeling in your gut? The answer isn't just academic. Getting it wrong can have serious consequences for our health.
So we're going to unpack the full truth about how we understand stress. Because let's face it, if you don't really understand something, how can you ever hope to manage it?
And make no mistake, the stakes are incredibly high. If we let chronic stress just run wild, it can lead to very real, very serious physical sickness, and it can even push us into a mental health crisis.
To really get how we think about stress today, we first have to go back and look at two competing theories that were basically duking it out for years.
So you had these two camps, right? On one side, you had scientists who are convinced that stress is the event itself, the bad thing that happens to you. But on the other side, you had people arguing, no, it's all about what's happening inside you, that biological reaction.
So this first idea, they called it the stimulus theory, and its focus was completely on the outside world. From this point of view, stress is the deadline. Stress is the argument. Stress is the bad news. It's just an external thing, and you're the person it's happening to.
Okay, but right away, you can probably see some pretty big holes in this theory. For example, why do two people go through the exact same event and one is totally fine while the other is an absolute wreck? And what about all the little things, like being stuck in traffic or just being bored out of your mind? This theory kind of assumed only huge, terrible events could cause stress.
So that brings us to theory number 2, which came from a scientist named Selye, and he just completely flipped the script. He said, forget the external event for a second. Stress is simply the body's internal alarm system going off in response to any kind of demand.
And this one was all about that internal alarm system we have. The idea is your brain spots a threat, real or imagined, and bam, it sends a signal down to your adrenal glands, which then floods your body with adrenaline. It's all designed to get you ready for one of three things: to fight, to run away, or to just freeze in place. It's a super powerful, ancient survival tool.
But you can probably guess, this theory had a big flaw too. It was just too simple. It basically treats us like biological robots, right? It reduces this incredibly complex human experience down to a simple chemical reaction, totally ignoring the most human parts of us: our thoughts, our spirit, our ability to interpret what's happening.
So you've got these two theories, and neither one really tells the whole story. The stage was set for a breakthrough, an idea that could finally bring them together.
And that breakthrough is the interactional theory. It says stress isn't just the event, and it isn't just your biology. It's the interaction between them. And the magic ingredient, the secret sauce, is something called appraisal. That's your own personal take on what's happening.
I love this analogy. Picture a balance scale. On one side, you pile on all the demands from a situation. On the other side, you've got your resources, your energy, your skills, your support system. Stress is that feeling you get when you look at that scale and your brain concludes, whoa, the demands are way heavier than what I've got to deal with them. The scale tips.
And maybe the best way to think about appraisal is like a pair of glasses you're wearing. The event itself doesn't change, but if you can change the lenses, your interpretation, you can change your entire experience. This was a total game changer because it meant we're not just helpless victims of bad events or armed biology.
And this amazing idea that we can change how we see things leads us straight to another huge concept in psychology, your locus of control. This is all about where you believe control really is in your life.
It's a fancy term for a simple question. Do you feel like you're in the driver's seat of your own life, or are you just a passenger getting jerked around by whatever happens?
And this really boils down to two totally different ways of looking at the world. Someone with an external locus of control, they often feel like a victim. Life is just this thing that happens to them. But someone with an internal locus of control, they see themselves as the one in charge of their reactions. Life happens, sure, but they believe they get to choose how they respond.
Let's make this super concrete. Think about getting a bad grade on a test. The external mindset says, the teacher's unfair, that test was impossible, it's all about blame. But the internal mindset, it looks in the mirror and says, you know what, I probably didn't study enough for that.
And this is why it matters so much. You can't really grow or change if you're always pointing fingers at the outside world. Shifting that center of control from out there to in here
taking responsibility, that is the absolute first step toward building real resilience and taking control of your life.
Okay, so with all this talk about stress, you might be wondering, well, how much am I actually under? Turns out there's a classic tool that tries to do just that, by adding up the impact of big life changes.
It's called the Holmes and Rahe stress scale, and it's pretty straightforward. It just gives point values to different life events you might have gone through in the last year. The whole idea is that any major change, even a good one, forces you to adapt, and that adaptation creates stress.
So, just to give you an idea, here are the heavy hitters at the top of the scale. As you can see, major disruptions are worth the most points. But what's really interesting is that the full list also includes positive things, like getting married or a big personal success, because those things require a ton of adjustment too.
So the idea is you add up your score for the whole year. And here's the kicker. If your score is over 300, it suggests a much higher risk of getting sick. It's a pretty stark reminder of how all those life changes really add up and take a physical toll on our bodies.
Which brings us right back to the most important thing. Stressful events are going to happen. Your body is going to react. But the science is crystal clear. Your power, your control lies in that space in between, in your appraisal. So the fundamental question isn't whether you'll face stress. The real question is, how do you choose to see it?